Discover the miraculous beginnings, Adam and Eve, Noah, Abraham, and more, God's incredible plan revealed. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. In the 3rd year of Jehoiakim, the world was still fresh from the divine touch, filled with the glittering brilliance of heaven's light and the gentle whispers of nature's rhythms. Amidst the expanding cosmos, Yahweh's breath harmonized the universe, and from the dust of the ground he formed a man, Adam. Awake at dawn, Adam opened his eyes to behold the extraordinary beauty of the Garden of Eden, a paradise in which colors danced and living creatures thrived, all crafted by the Almighty's hands. As the sun ascended, rays of golden light illuminated flowers in bloom, their perfumes mingling in the air, while trees spread their limbs like gracious hosts. Adam marveled at the vibrant hues and lush textures that surrounded him, the tender greens of leaves, the thrilling sounds of cascading waters, and the sweet melodies of birds echoing God's glory. Each footfall upon the soft earth reverberated with perfect communion with Yahweh, the Creator. Yet just beyond the lush gardens, a thread of curiosity began to weave through Adam's heart. Near the borders where Eden's grassy slopes met the whispered shadows, the serpent coiled, stirring with a presence both compelling and mysterious. One day, the serpent slithered to him, hissing, "Did God really say you must not eat from any tree in the garden?" A shiver of uncertainty tingled within Adam, conjuring recollections of the divine command. The fruit of one tree should remain untouched. As the words wrapped around him, the serpent urged, "You will not surely die, but you will be like God, knowing good and evil." Adam's heart thudded against the stillness of paradise. The prospect of hidden knowledge beckoned, and questions clouded his mind. Had God concealed something invaluable? Torn between the assured truths planted by his Creator and the snake's alluring promise, a spiritual battle raged within him. Before long, the day gilded into twilight, and Adam shared his turmoil with Eve, who walked beside him. What if the serpent speaks truth, she pondered, her eyes reflecting the garden's serene beauty. Together they mused over the serpent's words, weighing desire against the weight of divine command. They sought to cling to obedience, the abundance surrounding them whispering hope, yet shadows began to creep across the horizon. Before we continue with this incredible biblical account, I want to make sure you don't miss any of these powerful scripture stories. Click the bell icon and select all notifications. These biblical narratives have transformed countless lives throughout history. If God's word through this story is blessing you, please like and share with someone who needs to hear about God's faithfulness today. Tell me in the comments, which biblical story has most impacted your faith journey?
I'm always amazed how God's word speaks to hearts across generations. Now let's continue with what the Lord did next. The serpent returned, its voice a silken hiss. "You will not surely die, but your eyes will be opened." Adam's heart raced, curiosity igniting a fire within him. The lurking desire for wisdom pulled at his soul, contrasting with the weight of disobedience. And there, in the fading light, Eve extended her hand, trembling towards the forbidden fruit. Adam stood, torn, love for her battling his fear of divine consequence. As the sun dipped below the horizon, shadows lengthened over the garden, marking the imminent juncture of faith and choice. The story hung delicately in the balance, an unfurling mystery that would ripple through humanity, begging the question, what choice would they make, and how would God's plan unfold through the echoes of their decision? And so, in the stillness of that sacred hour, Eve's fingers brushed the fragile skin of the fruit. The serpent's promise echoed in her mind, a siren song compelling her steps toward the edge of temptation. She gazed upon the fruit, which bore a color more radiant than all others in the garden, a color that seemed to glimmer with the fullness of knowledge. In that moment, with the weight of eternity hanging upon their choice, she took the fruit and bit down, its sweetness bursting forth, intoxicating and rich. As the juices dripped from her chin, she turned to Adam, who stood breathless, his heart a battleground of rage and fear intertwined. She offered the fruit to him, her voice soft yet insistently laced with a yearning for him to share in the depth of this knowledge. "Taste and see, beloved, we will not die, but awaken to understanding." Caught in the web of his love for Eve and the weight of her urging, Adam reached out. The fruit felt warm to his touch, a sensorial delight that promised revelation. He took a bite, his mouth filled with the essence of rebellion, and the world shifted around them. Suddenly, their eyes were opened, and the innocence of their hearts unraveled. They perceived the weight of their choices, the guilt and the shame flooding their souls, casting aside the glory woven within their creation. Genesis 3:7 records, "Then the eyes of both of them were opened, and they realized they were naked, so they sewed fig leaves together and made themselves loincloths." They stood shivering in shame, their once perfect communion with God shattered, veils of separation descending like a heavy curtain upon the garden. In the hushed stillness that ensued, the familiar sound of the Lord walking in the cool of the evening came to their ears. Panic gripped their hearts as they hurried to hide among the trees, a futile attempt to escape the gaze of the Almighty. Yet God, in His mercy, called out, "Where are you?" His voice was a blend of sorrow and authority, reaching deep into the darkness of their newly found awareness.
"Have you eaten from the tree that I commanded you not to eat from?" he questioned. Adam's heart sank under the weight of his sin. "The woman you put here with me, she gave me some fruit from the tree and I ate it." Eve interjected, her voice trembling. "The serpent deceived me and I ate." Thus began the unveiling of consequences, as God spoke forth judgment upon the serpent, the woman, and the man, foretelling the struggle between good and evil that would weave throughout the ages. Yet within the boundaries of divine rebuke, God's eternal promise glimmered. "I will put enmity between you and a woman, and between your offspring and hers. He will crush your head, and you will strike his heel." A revelation unfurled, a prophecy veiled in a curse, hinting at one who would one day reclaim the hearts of humanity. As Adam and Eve were cast from their paradise, now burdened with the weight of sin, they departed, yet not without hope, for in the shadows of despair, a glimmer of redemption whispered from the heart of God. And thus the stage was set, with heaven watching, for a narrative of love, loss, and the relentless pursuit of restoration to unfurl, a testament to divine grace that would echo through generations, waiting for the day of deliverance that only God could orchestrate. What other secrets lay hidden in the tapestry of God's sovereign plan? And so it was, as Adam and Eve ventured forth from the garden, that the bitterness of separation weighed heavily upon their hearts. The memories of glory faded into shadows, yet the promise of redemption flickered like a distant star amid a darkened sky. Genesis 3:23-24 recounts, "So the Lord God banished him from the Garden of Eden to work the ground from which he had been taken. After he drove the man out, he placed on the east side of the Garden of Eden cherubim and a flaming sword flashing back and forth to guard the way to the tree of life." In the desolate land beyond the garden, Adam and Eve wandered, their spirits entwined in grief, yet burdened with the knowledge they had gained. Each step into the wilderness was heavy, a reminder of their disobedience. In this barren world, the toil of labor awaited them, and their hearts experienced the pangs of loss. Eve wept in silence, her tears falling to the ground like seeds of sorrow. Adam, feeling the weight of their shared fate, sought to comfort her. "We shall endure, my beloved. From the dust we came, and to the dust we shall return. Yet our story shall not end thus. There is a promise we must hold fast. The seed of the woman shall arise." But as the days turned into seasons, the promise felt distant, and the earth grew harsh. Their hands, once tender and unscarred, now bore the marks of labor and struggle. The fruits of the land were harder to gather, and in their hardship, anger and frustration began to rise between them. The serpent, lurking in the shadows of their sorrow, watched with sinister glee.
Whispering lies forged from cunning, it sought to amplify their despair. Has God truly spoken? Is he faithful? Would he not forsake you in your hour of need? For after all, you have tasted and know his voice is not truth. Adam and Eve, though shaken, clung to the remembrance of God's words, yet doubt seeped into their hearts like a creeping vine. One day, as Adam tilled the ground, he called to Eve, "Come, gather with me, let us speak of the promise." Eve approached, her countenance weary. "Shall we not curse the day we ate? Was it not our rebellion that brought forth this pain?" Yet Adam replied, "In our rebellion lies the hint of grace. The promise carries with it a hope beyond our understanding. The seed spoken of must confront the serpent, perhaps through our offspring." With newfound resolve, they made an altar from stones and soil, tears mingling with the earth as their prayers rose higher. They cried out, "O Lord, remember your promise. Let the days be counted until you fulfill it. We trust in your sovereign hand." As the years flowed onward, their hearts began to heal, and in time Eve bore children. The joy of new life shattered the echoes of despair, and their love burgeoned in ways previously unknown. In the heart of their toil, the shadow of hope continually flickered. Genesis 4:1 records, "Adam lay with his wife Eve, and she became pregnant and gave birth to Cain. She said, 'With the help of the Lord I have brought forth a man.'" Yet the tension of the promise was palpable. The ground they had once cherished now harbored deep pains, and the serpent still prowled, seeking to devour their newfound joy. Little did they know, the path of their lineage would stretch across the ages, carrying light into depths of darkness. As they embraced the gift of family, they spoke often of the promise, a radiant hope that would shimmer through the decades. But what they could not fathom was the fullness of God's plan, hidden deep within the seed of promise, awaiting to be unveiled in the tapestry of time. Indeed, the earth was shifting towards a divine orchestration, as heaven held its breath in anticipation. What miracles lay ahead in the unfolding of God's sovereign will? And it came to pass, as the sun warmed the earth and the moons waned and waxed in their celestial dance, that Eve bore another son, and his name was Abel. Genesis 4:2 states, "Now Abel kept flocks, and Cain worked the soil. And the brothers grew in stature and spirit, each embracing their endeavors, the first in offering to God the fruits of the ground, and the latter nurturing and shepherding the flocks." In time, as the seasons turned like the page of a sacred book, Adam and Eve found themselves before an altar adorned with the first fruits of their harvest, their hearts lifted in reverence. Upon gathering offerings, Adam instructed his sons in the way of sacrifice, teaching them the necessity of humility and covenantal fidelity with their Creator.
"Bring forth the best of your labor," Adam urged, "for the Lord delights in a sincere heart." And so it was that Cain brought forth the fruit of the soil, a beautiful, bountiful offering, while Abel, tendering the yearlings of his flock, offered the fat portions of the choicest of his sheep. Then they laid their offerings before the Lord. Genesis 4:4 says, "The Lord looked with favor on Abel and his offering, but on Cain and his offering he did not look with favor." This caused Cain's countenance to fall, and jealousy stirred within him as a tempest brews before a storm. "Why are you angry, Cain?" the Lord inquired, his voice a whisper ripe with compassion. "If you do what is right, will you not be accepted? But if you do not do what is right, sin is crouching at your door. It desires to have you, but you must rule over it." Yet Cain's heart hardened, wrapped tightly in the shackles of resentment. That night, under the cloak of darkness, he lured his brother Abel into the fields, and there, in a fit of rage, he rose against him and struck him down. In that moment, the earth wept. Genesis 4:10 records, "The Lord said, 'What have you done? Listen, your brother's blood cries out to me from the ground.'" Cain, consumed by despair, begged the Lord for mercy, fearing that others would take vengeance upon him. And even in Cain's transgression, God's mercy was revealed. "I will put a mark on you, so that no one who finds you will kill you," the Lord declared, encasing the sinner in divine protection, even as he ventured into the land of Nod, east of Eden. This act, however, cast a shadow upon the hearts of Adam and Eve, for they realized the depths of their choices. The separation from their beloved garden echoed in the despair of their son. As years flowed like rivers, life sprang forth from sorrow. Adam and Eve bore more children, and when Seth was born, Eve announced, "God has granted me another child in place of Abel, since Cain killed him." From this child would arise a lineage, an echo of the promise. And thus began a new chapter. Generations rose and fell, and in the hearts of men
the seeds of hope were sown alongside the weeds of sin. As the earth filled with the descendants of Adam, the flood of wickedness threatened to engulf the hearts of men. But God's promise lay dormant, waiting for the right time to spring forth. In the silence of the ages, the wondrous plan of redemption was being woven in the heavenly tapestry. Little did they understand, but each act, each sacrifice, and each promise drew them nearer to the day when the seed of the woman would arise to crush the serpent's head once and for all. Indeed, even in the shadows of their sorrow lay the beginnings of a magnificent story, a tale where the blood cried out not for vengeance, but for redemption. The world was shaping, the hearts of men turning, and the divine orchestration of God's sovereign plan was about to unfold in ways no soul had yet comprehended.
And it came to pass that Adam and Eve walked in the shadow of a world both beautiful and marred. The lineage of Seth grew, and through him a new generation began to call upon the name of the Lord. Genesis 4:26 records, "At that time people began to call on the name of the Lord." In the midst of toil and tribulation, hopeful hearts sought to align themselves with the divine will, offering up prayers that mingled with the fragrance of the dawn. Yet, as the sons and daughters of Adam filled the earth, sin crept in like a fog, shrouding their hearts in despair. The wickedness of mankind flourished, for Genesis 6:5 declares, "The Lord saw how great the wickedness of the human race had become on the earth, and that every inclination of the thoughts of the human heart was only evil all the time." Among the descendants of Seth, there arose a man named Enoch, who walked faithfully with God. His heart, aflame with righteousness, stood as a beacon in a world that had largely turned away from its Creator. Genesis 5:24 tells us, "Enoch walked faithfully with God. Then he was no more, because God took him away." His life echoed the promise of a hope intertwined with the divine presence, an assurance that, despite the darkness, the light of God shone brightly. But as hearts grew cold, transgression multiplied. In time, the Creator, with a heart full of sorrow, determined to sweep away the wickedness from the earth in the great flood. Genesis 6:6 poignantly states, "The Lord regretted that he had made human beings on the earth, and his heart was deeply troubled." Yet within this conflagration of judgment, God's mercy found a way to preserve a remnant. Thus was Noah chosen, a man righteous and blameless among the wicked. In him lay the seeds of preservation, for Genesis 6:9 reveals, "Noah was a righteous man, blameless among the people of his time, and he walked faithfully with God." God spoke unto Noah, revealing the breadth of his divine plan, entrusting him with the building of the ark, a vessel of rescue amid the coming storm. "Make yourself an ark of cypress wood," the Lord commanded. "Make rooms in it and coat it with pitch inside and out." Genesis 6:14. As the rain clouds gathered, Noah's faith stood firm. He labored tirelessly, gathering his family and pairs of every living creature. For in the unfolding of this grand narrative lay a promise that a new beginning awaited the world that would emerge from the deluge. As the water began to rise, enveloping the land, the scent of judgment mingled with the fragrance of hope. Genesis 7:16 tells us, "The animals going in were male and female of every living thing, as God had commanded Noah." Sealed within the ark, they created a sanctuary in the midst of divine wrath, and so the remnant prevailed.
Days turned to weeks, and the heavens poured forth its torrents. Yet within the confines of the ark, Noah and his family remained steadfast, trusting in the God who had delivered them, knowing that beyond the tempest lay a promise of renewal. With every droplet that fell, they awaited the revelation of the Lord's purpose. And when the waters receded and the ground appeared once more, Noah stepped upon an earth transformed, a world washed anew. God's covenant echoed in the promise of the rainbow. "Never again will I destroy all living creatures as I have done." Genesis 9:15. Thus began a legacy marked by faith, binding creation to the Creator in an unbroken covenant. But the saga was far from complete. Hidden within the fabric of each life was a thread of divine purpose yet to unravel. The world would witness a grand unfolding, for through the line of Noah, the nations would rise, and the promise of a Redeemer would come forth in God's perfect timing. for even in the shadows of judgment, grace was stirring, awaiting its moment to shine. As Noah emerged from the ark, the air was filled with the sweet scent of earth reborn, and the sun began to shine upon a world washed clean. The Lord spoke to Noah, saying, "Be fruitful and multiply, and fill the earth. The fear and dread of you will fall on all the beasts of the earth, and on every bird of the sky, with every creature that moves along the ground, and all the fish in the sea. They are given into your hands." Genesis 9:1-2. Noah, filled with gratitude, built an altar to the Lord and offered burnt offerings, a fragrance of worship rising to the heavens. The Lord smelled the pleasing aroma and said in his heart, "Never again will I curse the ground because of humans, even though every inclination of the human heart is evil from childhood." Genesis 8:21. God's voice resonated with promise and mercy, setting a divine precedent that echoed through the ages. As days turned into months, the descendants of Noah began to grow and populate the earth. They divided into clans and nations, speaking one language and sharing one speech. Yet as their unity flourished, so too did their ambition, as they conspired to build a city and a tower that would reach the heavens, proclaiming, "Let us make a name for ourselves, otherwise we will be scattered over the face of the whole earth." Genesis 11:4. But the Lord, gazing down upon their pride, confounded their language, causing confusion that shattered their plans. In their disarray, the people scattered across the earth, and the tower which they sought to establish as a testament to their greatness lay unfinished, the ambition of man thwarted by divine intervention. Amidst this scattering, God set his sights upon a man named Abram, calling him from the land of Ur of the Chaldeans.
"Leave your country, your people, and your father's household, and go to the land I will show you," the Lord commanded, promising that he would make Abram into a great nation, bless him, and make his name great. Genesis 12:1-2. Thus began the stories of faith that would echo through generations, a saga intertwined with God's unyielding promise. Abram obeyed, setting forth in faith alongside his wife Sarai and his nephew Lot. In the land of Canaan, the Lord appeared unto Abram, reaffirming his promise, saying, "To your offspring I will give this land." Genesis 12:7. Faithful and yet faltering, Abram faced trials that tested his trust, even resorting to worldly means in times of uncertainty. Yet God remained steadfast, illustrating his faithfulness. As nations began to rise and fall, and as the lineage of Noah spread, God's divine plan continued to weave its way through the hearts of men, drawing them ever closer to the true revelation of his grace. The covenant that God established with Abram was not merely for him, it reverberated with implications for the entire earth. Yet the landscape of faith grew increasingly complex. From the union of nations to the whispers of discord, moments unfolded that would lead to hardship and deliverance. For as the paths of humanity diverged, the fullness of time approached. For within Abram's lineage lay the seed of hope. The promise of a Redeemer was set to emerge through the bloodline, destined to restore all that had been lost. And so, as history turned its pages, shadows deepened, and the stage was set for the revelation yet to come, a revelation that would unveil God's perfect plan, beckoning all creation to witness his redemptive love. But what they did not yet fully understand was that the true journey towards deliverance would demand not just faith, but sacrifice, beginning with a covenant marked by the promise of a land and the unfolding of a divine lineage that would forever change the course of history. As the days passed in the land of Canaan, Abram, along with Sarai and Lot, began to settle into their new life, yet uncertainty lingered like a shadow over their journey. Despite the Lord's promise echoing within his heart, Abram faced trials that sought to unravel his faith. Famine struck the land, and the promise of abundance appeared as a distant echo. In his distress, Abram turned towards Egypt, believing the well-watered plains could provide refuge. He said to Sarai, his wife, "I know what a beautiful woman you are. When the Egyptians see you, they will say, 'This is his wife.' Then they will kill me but let you live. Say you are my sister, so that I will be treated well for your sake, and my life will be spared because of you." Genesis 12:11-13. In this moment of fear, cloaked in deceit, the fragility of human faith was laid bare. Sarai complied, and in Egypt, beauty brought favor, yet unveiled Abram's shortcomings as he was enriched by gifts from Pharaoh. But this favor quickly turned to woe, for the Lord afflicted Pharaoh and his household with great plagues because of Sarai, who was taken into his household. Pharaoh summoned Abram, accusing him, "What have you done to me? Why didn't you tell me she was your wife?" Genesis 12:18. The weight of Abram's deception was heavy. As Pharaoh returned Sarai, he commanded his men concerning Abram, sending him out of Egypt with his wife and all that he had. Emerging from the shadow of his disobedience, Abram returned to Canaan, retracing the steps of his faith. He called upon the name of the Lord, establishing anew the altar he had built earlier. The God who had called him was ever faithful, inviting him to renew his covenant. In the land, Abram and Lot prospered. Their possessions grew, yet so did their conflicts as herdsmen quarreled over the land's resources. Abram, in his wisdom and grace, proposed a solution. "Let there be no strife between you and me, for we are kinsmen. Is not the whole land before you? Separate yourself from me. If you take the left hand, I will go to the right, or if you take the right hand, I will go to the left." Genesis 13:8-9. Lot, driven by sight rather than faith, chose the lush plains of Jordan, settling near the city of Sodom. The shadows of depravity loomed there, despite the outward beauty, for the wickedness of those cities was great. Yet the Lord said to Abram, "Lift up your eyes and look from the place where you are, northward and southward and eastward and westward. For all the land that you see, I will give to you and your offspring forever." Genesis 13:14-15. The promise of an eternal inheritance rested upon Abram's shoulders. While Lot's choice led him into peril, God's eyes remained upon Abram, reaffirming his covenant promise. Even amidst uncertainty, God assured Abram of his watchful care, for the inheritance was not just land, it was hope in the fulfillment of a divine plan, a lineage destined to bring forth blessing to all nations. As Abram looked upon the land stretching beneath the heavens, the mystery of God's unrolling tapestry began to reveal its masterful design. For he held not only the promise of a land, but the weight of promises yet fulfilled, and the anticipation of a covenant that would unfold through his lineage. But little did he understand that the trials ahead would call for more than faith. They would forge a deeper trust in the God of his promises, setting the stage for a pivotal moment that would reverberate through all of history. Would Abram remain steadfast, or would the winds of life lead him astray? The plan of God awaited its revelation, for the journey was just beginning, and a greater exodus lay ahead. Abram's heart stirred within him as he built his altar anew in Canaan, calling upon the name of the Lord. For so much had transpired in the span of a few days, yet the divine promise did not waver.
With renewed faith, he sought the counsel of God, desiring clarity in the unfolding of his plan. Little did he know that the path ahead would challenge his convictions yet further. One day, as he stood under the vast Canaanite sky, Abram received a revelation. The Lord spoke to him, saying, "You are not alone, Abram. Know this, your offspring will be strangers in a land that is not theirs. They will serve and be afflicted for 400 years. But I will bring judgment upon the nation that serves them, and afterward they shall come out with great possessions." Genesis 15:13-14. Abram pondered this word, contemplating its weight. He felt the heaviness of the knowledge that generations would rise and endure hardships, but he also felt the flicker of hope ignited by God's assurance of deliverance. Amid the darkness and uncertainty, light pierced the veil of his understanding. God's sovereign plan was far greater than he could see. Days turned to months, and Abram and Sarai faced another trial. The promise of descendants lingered like a mirage upon their journey through barren lands. Sarai, weighed down by the years and the absence of children, proposed an alternative. "Behold now, the Lord has restrained me from bearing," she declared. "Go in unto my maid. It may be that I shall obtain children by her." Genesis 16:2. In this moment of desperation, the flesh wrestled against faith, and Abram consented to Sarai's plan. Hagar, Sarai's maidservant, conceived and bore a son named Ishmael. Yet this act, intended to be a means to fulfill God's promise, only birthed strife within their household. Sarai grew resentful, and her heart became heavy with jealousy. "My wrong be upon you," she cried to Abram.
who stood caught in the turmoil of his desires and doubts. Amidst the conflict, the Lord heard Hagar's cries as she fled into the wilderness. The angel of the Lord approached her, saying, "Hagar, where have you come from, and where are you going?" Genesis 16:8. She answered, "I flee from the face of my mistress Sarai." With compassion, God assured her, "Return to your mistress, and submit thyself under her hands." Genesis 16:9. He also declared, "I will greatly multiply thy seed, that it shall not be numbered for multitude." Genesis 16:10. Hagar, overwhelmed by the divine encounter, named the Lord who spoke to her, "Thou God seest me," for she had seen him and lived. The God of promises and provision was indeed moving among them, even in the depths of despair. As Abram dealt with the consequences of his actions, the years drifted by, and the weight of the promise lingered heavier upon him. The Lord appeared again to Abram when he was 99 years old, saying, "I am the Almighty God. Walk before me, and be thou perfect." Genesis 17:1. He established his covenant afresh, reiterating, "My covenant is with thee, and thou shalt be a father of many nations."
Neither shall thy name any more be called Abram, but thy name shall be Abraham, for a father of many nations have I made thee. Genesis 17:4-5. In that moment, the anguish of waiting began to mingle with renewed anticipation. As the divine decree echoed in Abraham's heart, he fell on his face, humbled by the revelation of the one who holds the threads of time. Yet the questions remained. How would this promise unfold? How could a man so aged and a woman so barren become the roots of nations? And so, in the midst of uncertainty and human frailty, God's sovereign plan was as intricate as it was divine. Yet the winds of fate were poised to blow through history, propelling this couple toward their destiny, held within the heart of God's unfathomable will. The time neared for God to unveil his miracle. The laughter of promise would soon echo through the ages, revealing his everlasting covenant with all of creation. And it came to pass that God spoke once more to Abram, saying, "As for Sarai thy wife, thou shalt not call her name Sarai, but Sarah shall her name be. And I will bless her, and give thee a son also of her. Yea, I will bless her, and she shall be a mother of nations. Kings of people shall be of her." Genesis 17:15-16. At these words, a mixture of disbelief and joy flooded Abraham's heart. He fell upon his face and laughed, for he was amazed at the promise extending to his aged wife. "Shall a child be born unto him that is 100 years old? And shall Sarah that is 90 years old bear?" Genesis 17:17. Yet within his laughter lay the seed of faith, one that flickered against the doubt of the flesh. Abraham then implored the Lord, "Oh, that Ishmael might live before thee." Genesis 17:18. His heart ached for the son he had borne, wishing to see him prosper in the blessings of the Lord. Yet God, rich in mercy and knowing the depths of his purpose, replied gently, "Sarah thy wife shall bear thee a son indeed, and thou shalt call his name Isaac. And I will establish my covenant with him for an everlasting covenant, and with his seed after him." Genesis 17:19. Thus the covenant shifted focus, centering upon Isaac, the son of promise. The name echoed through the air, Isaac, laughter, the laughter of divine promise that struck the chords of faith even in the midst of patriarchal impossibility. Days rolled forth, and as Abraham walked before God, he obeyed every command laid upon him. The covenant of circumcision was instituted as a sign, marking every male of his house. In the same day was Abraham circumcised and Ishmael his son. Genesis 17:26. The act bound them to the promise, sealing his household under the grace of God. As the sun set over the plains of Canaan, Abraham sat in deep contemplation. Thoughts of the future stirred within him, interwoven with the promise of generations to come. He could almost see the threads being woven into a tapestry of an everlasting legacy.
Just then, the Lord appeared to Abraham in the heat of the day as he sat in the door of his tent. 3 strangers approached, and Abraham ran to meet them, bowing low, saying, "My Lord, if now I have found favor in thy sight, pass not away, I pray thee, from thy servant." Genesis 18:3. He hurried to prepare a feast in honor of his guests, an act of hospitality steeped in reverence. As they did eat, the visitors turned to Abraham and uttered, "Where is Sarah thy wife?" Genesis 18:9. When he answered that she sat in the tent, one of them proclaimed, I will certainly return unto thee according to the time of life, and lo, Sarah thy wife shall have a son. Genesis 18:10. Sarah, overhearing from within, laughed silently to herself, thinking, After I am waxed old, shall I have pleasure, my Lord being old also? Genesis 18:12. Yet the Lord, discerning her thoughts, called to Abraham. Wherefore did Sarah laugh, saying, Shall I of a surety bear a child which am old? Is anything too hard for the Lord? Genesis 18:13-14. The weight of the question settled over Abraham and Sarah, a divine challenge that stirred their hearts and minds. And thus, with every promise given, the anticipation of laughter, the laughter of joy mingling with the divine mystery of God's sovereign will, began to grow louder. The vision of Isaac was nearing, and within it lay the unfolding of a legacy that would not only bless Abraham's lineage, but ripple through all the nations. As such, the path of obedience beckoned forth, and the soul yearned for a deeper understanding, a longing for clarity amidst the beauty of divine uncertainty. How might this child of laughter reshape the world? What destinies awaited beyond their names? Only the heavens above, vast and inscrutable, held the secrets of God's unfolding plan, waiting for the appointed time to reveal His glory. And it came to pass that the time had finally arrived for the promise to bloom in full. The cycle of expectancy had reached its climax, and the joy of fulfillment hovered over the tent of Abraham. Genesis 21:1-2 declares, Now the Lord was gracious to Sarah as He had said, and the Lord did for Sarah what He had promised. Sarah became pregnant and bore a son to Abraham in his old age, at the very time God had promised him. Abraham named his son Isaac, and the laughter, which once mingled with doubt, now reverberated with the joy of divine reality. Sarah exclaimed, God has brought me laughter, and everyone who hears about this will laugh with me. Genesis 21:6. Isaac's arrival marked a pivotal moment. The promise that began in Eden, echoed through generations, and forged in the crucible of trials, now stood before them as a radiant testament to God's unwavering faithfulness. Yet in the shadows of this joyous occasion, Hagar and her son Ishmael remained.
When Sarah perceived that Ishmael mocked her boy, tension stirred, and she said to Abraham, Get rid of that slave woman and her son, for that woman's son will never share in the inheritance with my son Isaac. Genesis 21:10. This burden weighed heavily upon Abraham's heart, yet God, ever compassionate, spoke to him, saying, Do not be so distressed about the boy and your maidservant. Listen to whatever Sarah tells you, because it is through Isaac that your offspring will be reckoned. Genesis 21:12. Abraham, trusting in God's plan, sent Hagar and Ishmael away with provisions, and they wandered in the wilderness. In desperation, when her water ran out, Hagar lamented over her plight, and it was there that God responded. Genesis 21:17-18 tells us, God heard the boy crying, and the angel of God called to Hagar from heaven and said to her, What is the matter, Hagar? Do not be afraid. God has heard the boy crying as he lies there. Lift the boy up and take him by the hand, for I will